Let's go back to 1999. Before everything got loud, before everything got complicated, before the internet became a place you had to survive instead of somewhere you visited. 1999. When Britney Spears wasn't just famous, she was unavoidable. She was playing on televisions, bolted high in the corners of shops you didn't even like. You could hear Britney everywhere, Woolworths, while you stood holding something you couldn't afford but desperately wanted. She wasn't a person. She was the teen superstar. And she was unavoidable. Pokemon wasn't just popular, it was lore. And I mean that. It existed everywhere at once, in playgrounds, in living rooms, in quiet spaces behind your eyes where you were supposed to be paying attention to something else. Pokemon cards weren't just cards, they were currency, social currency, emotional currency, the difference between belonging and orbiting. You learned early that holographic meant power, that Charizard wasn't something you owned, he was something you witnessed. Booster packs hung behind counters in walls like sacred objects. You stood there rehearsing which one you'll pick, like your decision somehow mattered, like fate was negotiable. And sometimes you'd pull nothing and pretend you didn't care, even though you cared more than anything, because when you're 11, caring too much is the most dangerous thing you can do. Saturday mornings belonged to SMTV Live. Not casually. You'd sit too close to the television, bowl of cereal slowly dissolving into milk, watching Pokemon episodes with Ant and Dec and Cat Dealey. You already, well, it was treated like a major event. Ash turning his cat backwards. Something shifted inside you too. That mattered. That was serious. And across the country, thousands of kids were sitting there at the exact same moment, connected by nothing and everything at once. The internet didn't connect us, this did. My red Game Boy Color, it wasn't something I owned, it was something that was with me. It had scratches on the red plastic. It still does to this day, but that's not damage. It tells stories. Cheap AA batteries, well, they didn't last very long. But, you knew the warning signs, the light changing colour. Save your game quickly. It lived in your pocket, it lived under your pillow on long car journeys where time stretched endlessly and the world outside the window didn't belong. But this did. Inside that plastic shell, you had control. Inside that plastic shell, the world made sense. Pikachu followed behind me in Pokemon Yellow, and somehow the tiny creature made everything feel alive. Not real, but not unreal either. Real enough. My bedroom was kryptonite green. And I'm not talking subtle. Kryptonite green is a colour. It's not tasteful. It's radioactive. It's Nickelodeon infected the consciousness of an 11-year-old boy. What were you thinking green? The kind of green that vibrated. The kind of green that only made sense when you were young enough to believe brightness equaled happiness. Posters covered walls like decorations of identity when you were still kind of constructing yourself. WWE wrestlers mid-pose, video game characters, Lara Croft, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, Pokémon Stadium, pop stars who existed somewhere between human and myth, Steps, S Club 7, Britney. At that time it felt like control, now it feels like evidence that childhood was something physical, something you built yourself around. Woolworths was part of the ecosystem. CD singles lined the shelves in fragile plastic cases. $1.99 felt expensive, $2.99 felt impossible. You didn't always buy the albums, you bought the moment. S Club 7, Backstreet Boys, 5, Britney. You name it. Songs that become permanent residents inside your nervous system without asking permission. And then there was Smash Hits magazine. That was loud and chaotic and alive. It didn't talk to you like a child. It talked to you like you were already part of something, like you belonged to the world it described. Technology hadn't disappointed us yet. We didn't have constant existential crisis machines that we call smartphones in our pockets. The Dreamcast was the future. It wasn't abstract, it was real, physical. Sitting under your TV, you could surf the internet on it if you wanted. It was clean, white, and optimistic. It's the VMU memory cards had their own screen. You could take these little mini games with you in your pocket. It felt impossible. Felt like something from the year 3000 had arrived early by mistake. My first computer was an iMac G3, bright orange. Imagine a bright orange iMac in a kryptonite green bedroom. Didn't look like a machine, it looked like candy. Translucent, friendly. Didn't hide its inside. Technology trusted us back then. The internet made noises when it arrived. Dial-up modems, that robotic noise. You didn't you couldn't be accidentally online. You had to choose to be online. Because you chose it, it meant something. Outside was still the main world. Come back before the streetlights come on. Or just as they're coming on, depending on how generous my mum was. And by the way, British summertime, that could be pretty late. Especially when we were off school. Bikes meant freedom. Distance meant independence. You could disappear for hours and nobody panicked. No phones, no tracking, no digital tether pulling you back. Just this quiet agreement that you'll come home before it gets dark. And you always did, because back then the world felt smaller and much safer. WWF felt real, not logically real, by any means. Stone Cold Steve Austin glass shattering meant something deep and undeniable. Justice had arrived on schedule. Monday mornings at school became reenactments, stories retold like historical events. The Rock wasn't playing a character, he was invincible. Tony Hawk Pro Skater taught you something nobody could ever explain. No matter how much you try, you'll never be able to skateboard. That's personal. I'm still bitter over that. My coordination sucks. Soundtracks got me into music that I'd never heard before. And cool wasn't something you were born with. It was something you discovered. Something you absorbed through through reputation, through sound, through motion, through falling and trying again, and still never being able to learn how to skateboard. Thanks. Everybody was afraid of Y2K. Adults whispered about it like there was a storm approaching. Planes might fall out the sky, banks might fail, the world might stop. It was ridiculous and comforting because fear was simple, understandable and finite, unlike fear that we live with now. But what I remember most is Christmas 1999, the warmth of it. It was fun. Not knowing it was the last Christmas my grandfather would ever see. Not knowing how rare those moments were because childhood protects you from endings. It lets you live entirely inside beginnings. 1999 wasn't a year, it was anticipation. It was the last year before everything accelerated, before the internet stopped being a place and became an atmosphere, before childhood quietly packed its bags and left without saying goodbye. I didn't know that then. None of us did. We were too busy living inside radioactive green bedrooms, too busy trading Pokémon cards, too busy listening to dial-up modems scream at you to open doorways to infinite places, too busy believing the future was something gentle, something patient, something waiting for us, and not something we'd spend the rest of our lives trying to get back to. So yeah, that was 1999, and this was the Bald Archive. I want to hear your stories. Let's go back. Hey, my mum will make pizza bagels, and I'm pretty sure there's Coke in the fridge. So, see you in 1999.